You're listening to This Week in E-Commerce, the Ecom Nation podcast. Dive into the top online retail headlines with your hosts, Paul Waddy and Chia. Let's load up the cart.
Welcome to episode 21, our first episode for 2024. Paul, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Mal. Where are you at the moment?
Sitting directly opposite you in your backyard.
Yeah, the wonders of modern technology. We're on two separate devices in the same room.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get our own studio soon, which may not be far off, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And how was your New Year's?
Good. It's quiet, having the three little kids. We just spent some time. New Year's Eve, I didn't make the 12 o'clock fireworks. But I had a good time with friends and spent a few days at home just enjoying the pool and the on and off weather and watching a bit of cricket. How was yours?
It was good, roughly the same. With multiple children, it was barely made it to New Year's Eve, so to midnight, but did make it, and then probably crushed at 1:30, 2 o'clock. Did not get a sleep in though. The kids woke me up at about 7 a.m. still. So.
Oh, that's a good effort. Well done.
Yeah. So it's been a big week. The big week actually. So we're now into the second week of January, and the news doesn't stop coming. It's been an interesting old time. I think with a few different retail publications saying that Boxing Day sales were much softer than they expected, which I was not surprised about at all. And I believe you and I have talked about it before. Saw some recent reports lately that November's new December, which it's like we've been saying this for years. I don't know why people are just figuring that out.
Yeah. I think I said that on ABC in 2017.
Yeah.
But that's good. I think November was a big month, obviously, for a lot of people, but largely just driven by people being a bit more aware of or looking for better deals. I don't necessarily think it means anything more than that. The year was still pretty tough. I think we've discussed that several times, but looking forward to 2024 and the first one, Mal, is a really interesting one, kind of reflective of how tough things have been, in that CNN business reporting that free returns are going away.
Yeah, I was very surprised and pleased to see that. They were reporting that big brands like Macy's, Abercrombie, J.Crew, and H&M have recently started introducing return fees. So if you want to mail in your returns, you have to pay a shipping fee, which I'm not completely against. We've talked about this before, that one of the big challenges we face in e-commerce is obviously the cost of increasing returns, particularly when there's so many brands out there, like even Australian versions like The Iconic, for instance, who really pioneered that free shipping model to increase your AOV and increase your conversion rate. Now realizing that in tougher economic conditions, they can't afford to keep doing that as well, that there is a significant financial cost to that. I think it's a good thing. I think ultimately for the sector, it's great that we kind of wean people off these little subsidies we were effectively giving them to buy, and train people how to buy under normal conditions so that we can actually have like a healthier economic model to how online businesses run.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And looking at the article, it's 2007. In 2019, returns were 8% roughly across all things that people bought in the US, and that's up to 17% in 2022. So that's more than double the return rate. And it rightly talks about the cost of freight, which has gone up since then, but also restocking. Really good point about a lot of companies having to mark them down if they've been used or worn, and a lot ending up in landfill. So I think it's good for everybody if we decrease or de-incentivize returns, one, because particularly the landfill issue isn't great, and I think too many brands have kind of got grass is greener syndrome and just offering free returns, refunds, everything, because that's what they think is the norm. And rightly or wrongly, we know that's not necessarily true. Famously, White Fox copped a bit of heat on that recently. That's a good example that you don't have to refund, you don't have to pay for returns, you've got to do what's right for you. And if you're starting with low margins, like let's say margins 50%, gross profit margins 50% or a little bit lower, you probably can't afford to offer free everything. So I personally don't have a problem with brands recouping the cost of returns.
I think it's a good thing. And I'm glad that there's a lot of brands who we know who've already started doing that already. I realize that one of the brands I work with, Sportitude, who do footwear, have been doing you have to pay for your own returns. They've had to do that for a while, and they still have a relatively low return rate of like 5% for footwear, which is quite remarkable. And I think that the onus becomes on like the brands to actually how do you ensure that people are ordering the right thing the first time? Yeah, and that could be things like whether you are making sure you've got the right size charts, you've got some sort of concierge service, you're offering more things there to allow people to help them to choose the right product at the right size at the very first time and minimize that return in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. A long time ago, I ran a trial with Australia Post where we got $30,000 to subsidise the cost of returns to see what impact it would have on repeat customers or conversion, and the result was nil. It had no impact at all.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. That's great. I think more people need to look at that. So look for smarter ways to increase the conversion rate and your basket size without necessarily needing to offer free this, free that, everything else.
Other ways to show your value.
Yeah, 100%. So I'd love to see more. Hopefully, that should be one of our predictions for 2024, that more brands actually start charging for returns.
Let's not do that webinar again, Mel.
All right, our second story we're going to talk about is TikTok. So in the last 12 months or so, TikTok have really been pushing into the online commerce space. So in particular with TikTok Shop, which actually saw quite a lot of growth last year in the US. However, they basically made the call at the start of the year that they were going to be increasing their commission they were taking from sellers. So it's now going to go from 2% to 6%, which is pretty significant. Also, when you consider the fact that they were also subsidizing a lot of retailers who were selling on TikTok. So what they're saying in this article is that a lot of the growth they experienced in the last 12 months, particularly over the Black Friday period, was because they were getting sellers to sell product on TikTok at a much higher discount than what they were expected to, but they were subsidized. So now they're taking the top. What do you think this is? Do you think that there's still bullish about e-commerce for online commerce for social marketing for TikTok? Or do you think this is more just like a reset, like we were saying, trying to build the business properly and sustainably rather than choosing it up to subsidies?
Yeah, this is interesting. I saw reading the comments on this article. So, 2% to 6% is obviously a huge hike. The first comment that I read here is from someone called Dark Owl, who says that there's a typical practice: start a service without outrageously low fees, undercut the competition, lead them out, and then jack the prices up. So I guess that's probably what's happening, is attract people with low price and then put the services up. We've whether the fee's fair or not, I don't know. 6%, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to see if is there a merchant fee on top of that, or are they processing the payment? If it's a commission like a marketplace, then it's cheap. What does it drive in incremental value? I don't know, so I can't really comment because I haven't tried it. But in terms, we've spoken before about TikTok in 2024 is going to change, not just from a point of being regulated more, but I think e-commerce brands. I know talking to brands, they're like, we know we've got to use TikTok more. We're not quite sure how, but we know that. I think you made the point recently that TikTok's viewed more than all the streaming services combined. So it's like, I don't quite know how to use it yet, even personally, but I know that I've got to start, and I know that brands have got to start. I guess, one comment here is also saying that TikTok now feels like I'm browsing Amazon in video form. So that's kind of like, that's a shame. But if you remember, back in Facebook days, Facebook used to be good, and then you could even reach new clients. It was cheap, and you get great return. And then it became pay to play, and it just pivoted to a family and friends network or a community network. And then Instagram became the new thing, and now that's going up in terms of price. So it's I guess we shouldn't be we shouldn't be surprised is that the social media platforms typically start out with little growth hacking opportunities, and then they just monetize it, and then we're all screwed, and it's just back to the big end of town, and the smaller brands have to pivot and find new ways to do things. So I don't know if the fee's expensive or not. It's interesting to know that they are obviously just seeking to monetize. It says they lost $500 million or something like that last year, so can't blame them for trying to monetize the platform. It'll be interesting to see how brands start to use it.
Absolutely. I think we're coming from Uber, for instance, where we grow the whole business on subsidies in terms of rider subsidies and driver subsidies. It feels like the same thing, particularly when you are venture backed and you have that growth at all costs mentality, which is what a lot of the brands, for instance, Amazon did that. Now they don't necessarily subsidize as much anymore. But they can push more hard. I think it's just that you can't really rely on that sort of part of the growth. You have to be do properly sustainable. You have to have some system which doesn't need to rely on subsidies in order to continue to grow and attract new customers. And I'll get to the PO. To the it doesn't pretty good, but still percentage of the bottom line.
Yeah, it is. And it comes back to what we always talk about, is there incrementality there, or you're just selling to existing customers already? And I genuinely don't know. But yeah, I think 6% would be fair if you're acquiring a whole bunch of new customers and you're not spending 20% on ads, but if you're selling to the same group of people anyway, then it's just 6% on top of things again, which just hurt margins.
Yeah, I think in some ways it is good in terms of just getting people comfortable with transacting on the platform. It's not really like with anything, whether Amazon got people comfortable buying books online by offering them at such a cheap price. So they were willing to sacrifice their margin in order to get people comfortable with buying on this new technology, which was the World Wide Web. Whereas TikTok trying to accelerate the same by getting people to buy, or getting people to be more comfortable buying on the platform. I think it's a good strategy if you've got cheap capital, but if you don't have cheap capital, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, interesting. Taking my earphones out so I can listen to you in real life. But yeah, that's interesting. I like that about getting people used to selling on the platform, and kind of that's the point I'm sort of making, is like a lot of brands, particularly in Australia, are a little bit slower to adopt things. I don't know many brands who are selling on TikTok, let alone advertising on TikTok. So I think that TikTok in general is a watch this space in 2024.
Although I'm expecting social shopping to grow quite a lot this year. So one which we're going to finish off today is one which is going to impact the majority of online retailers out there, which is Yahoo introduced spam policy. Now, one of the things is that domains which are sending more than 5,000 emails a day will now be subject to much stricter spam rules. So, in a nutshell, the two which really concern me are the fact that if you have a high unsubscribe rate, your domain will be marked as a spam domain, and then all your emails you're sending will end up in spam. And then, so that's one of the major ones there. So I think there's a lot there which, as email marketers, we're going to need to be much more, we're going to be much tighter in terms of what we're sending. In terms of making sure we're doing segmentation better, in terms of making sure that we're hitting and just being more critical and following better practice.
Yeah, so let's recap. So now this is going to affect brands that are only sending more than 5,000 emails daily?
Yes.
I guess you sort of think, oh, that's a lot, but not really when you start to factor in big brands with flows and automations and so on, yeah?
Yeah.
And so what do brands need to do really to protect themselves against this?
Well, my view is that they're really looking at segmentation and also really looking at how relevant the emails actually are. So rather than just sending a batch and parcel emails into our database, really focusing on narrowing down those segments and making sure that the content you're putting up for them is actually relevant. Reaching out to them at relevant moments with content which is actually going to be meaningful to them, which they're going to want to open, rather than bombarding their inbox where eventually they just skip it and put it in spam. Then the other change that's happening as well is also a requirement for one-click unsubscribe, which means that the old days of having a preference center where you click the unsubscribe button, it sends people a link. Are you sure you want to unsubscribe? Or which newsletter do you want to unsubscribe from? You can't do that anymore. If you don't offer one-click unsubscribe, your domain will be marked as spam.
Okay, so essentially what we've got to do is have a low unsubscribe rate, which is everything you just spoke about, not batch blasting and sending to engaged audiences, not sending too frequently, not the high quality of email. Don't send more than 5,000 a day if you can avoid it, which is pretty sound. I imagine Klaviyo and so on are pretty well across this already, right?
Yeah, like so. Look, I think Klaviyo has been pretty proactive. They accept you emails, advise people about what they need to do, and they're going to be handling their side as well. So that's pretty good. But at the same time, retailers need to be aware of these tactics as well. We can't just kind of blindly, just not expand, particularly if you want to get that 5,000 email that restaurant.
On a slightly side note, what do you think about, particularly around Cyber Week and so on, when brands want to dip into that temptation of batch blast or sending to the entire database and kind of moving away from the highly engaged?
I think you probably need to really rethink that. And I know a number of brands who are setting 5,000 emails per day over the time period. They're going to need to really rethink that strategy. And make sure that they are narrowing down significantly in terms of making sure that they are very selective about who they're sending to, but also diversifying all the channels that reach their customers. Not just email, like we were talking about before, moving to SMS, push notifications, but also a brand app as well. Kind of like where you have people who just push notifications from the app, which kind of bypasses a lot of those restrictions.
Yeah, cool. Good tips. Mal, app is a good one, actually. I love that. I know you're talking a lot about that for 2024. Mal, anything else happen this week?
I've done it. Hopefully we do get an interest rate rise, interest rate cut, I should say, in the next few weeks. So hopefully it's some good news to look out for there. Otherwise, we're kind of right back in the swing of things with 2024. And the retail calendar. We're going to have a website coming up very soon, and more events coming up as well. So I think I'll be speaking at Ecom in February. If you're not signed up to go there, and it's probably one of the first big conferences of the year. So head along there. It's a great agenda, as it always is. What about you, Paul? Anything which you're looking at?
Not really. Just settling back into things. You and I are talking about strategy today, which is fun, and brands should be thinking about their 2024 strategies if they haven't already done so. I'm feeling good about 2024 and what it will bring. And reminder, if you didn't see our webinar's prediction, that you can go to ecomnation.com.au and check it out, where we predict kind of some things to focus on for 2024. Mal's mentioned a couple. TikTok, super interesting. I'm really interested about apps. I'm doing more with apps this year for all the reasons Mal just said about diversifying channels, SMS and so on. But just more of the same, Mal, and looking forward to having a good, prosperous year.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening, everyone, and welcome back to the new year. We'll see you soon.
Reap.